Good afternoon, everyone. Great to get to be with you. Can you believe it? We are celebrating our 100th episode today. Welcome to SADS Live. I'm Mike Ackerman, genetic cardiologist at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and director of Mayo Clinic's Winland Smith Rice Genetic Heart Rhythm Clinic and the Winland Smith Rice Sudden Death Genomics Laboratory. But like the previous 99 episodes, I'm coming to you on behalf of the SADS Foundation, the Sudden Arrhythmia Death Syndrome Foundation, where I've had the privilege of serving as the chair of the board for many years now and to be partnered alongside our CEO, Alice Laura, and her team, where over 2.5 years ago, we launched SADS Live in the midst of the chaos and the confusion of this thing called COVID-19 pandemic. Remember, March 19, 2020 was our very first episode. And then we were together almost every Friday for nearly 18 months, 20 months until we shifted to every other Friday, where our purpose has been to answer your questions, to come alongside you. And it has been a wonderful privilege and an honor to come alongside each of our precious families who have their genetic heart condition, whether it's long QT syndrome or CPVT, Brugada syndrome, ARVC, or whatever it is where this has been your home, where the SADS Foundation is the largest nonprofit advocacy organization devoted to families with these kind of genetic heart conditions, where although they can cause the tragedy of sudden death, when we know of their existence, we fully expect then and now for you to live and thrive despite your diagnosis. We worked our way through the pandemic and all the questions of what does this mean? Will it aggravate, agitate your heart condition? No. Is the vaccine safe with your heart condition? Yes. How should we live in the setting of this pandemic? And increasingly, as we all have figured out how to navigate life AC after Corona or mid Corona or whatever phase we're in, we've been interviewing wonderful men and women across the globe, dear friends of mine, many of them, most of them who we've interviewed, physicians, scientists, sudden cardiac arrest survivors, and then have spent at least half of our programs devoted to your questions. And I love your questions. I hope my answers have been almost as good as your questions, because they are and have been amazing. Wow, 100 episodes, 2.5 years to think. March 19, 2020. Guess what? My first granddaughter, Jaden, was 6 weeks old. And now I'm grandpa number 2 with granddaughter number 2, Juniper, who today, Juniper is 16 days old. Much life has happened, hasn't it, between then and now, and I just love being with you. Well, before we take your questions and answers, I thought it would be only appropriate as we celebrate the 100th episode to really show you what makes the SADS Foundation happen. In this case, it's women, and all women, because the SADS team is, I'm pretty sure, exclusively women, and it's led by our CEO, Alice Laura. And I'm going to have Alice come up. I'm going to have the rest of our team come up through the technology manager, also known as the Wizard, Aaron, who has made every one of these episodes happen. We're going to be joined by Jan, the director of development for the SADS Foundation, Marcia, our program director, and Anna, our communications director. And these 5 women really are the heart and soul of the SADS Foundation. And so they are incredibly special. They are the reason why we are here for you and take care of you and your needs. So Alice, thank you for all you do as our CEO. Thank you for leading us. Thank you to each of your team. Aaron, I could not do any of these without you. You just let me show up, and then you hit the play button and I go. And so thank you to you, Aaron. And Anna, you have brought us into the new millennium of this thing called communication. and how to communicate in creative ways with social media that we never were doing as an organization before you. And so, Anna, you just mean the world to the SADS Foundation and these families. And Marcia, you've taken our education program to next level with all that you oversee. And then Jan, you're charged with keeping fuel in the engine. And as one of our famous sisters of St. Mary's Hospital and Mayo Clinic said, no money, no mission, more money, more mission. And you've done a beautiful job to keep us doing what we are here to do. And so, Alice, anything you have for your team? And I see questions coming in already. So it looks like I better get warmed up in the bullpen, but I'm going to.
We have a couple of quick things to do. So thank you so much, Mike. And I just wanted to mention we have two other team members. One is the newest team member, Genevieve Eccles, and she is the family support director and has been working sick all week. So I asked her to stay in bed today and get better for next week. And then we actually have a male. Zach is behind the scenes as a male doing all the packets that everybody sends for and all the database and all the support, financial, etc. So he is just in our actual office right now today doing work there. So he did not join us. But we want to thank you so much, Mike, for doing this, jumping on, at sort of the last minute, we were scrambling around. What do? We want to provide information and support. And really, everybody was very scared and didn't know what to do and what it meant. And so I think in these 2 years and 100, this is our 100th, right? More than 2,500 live views, people coming on live just to touch base, ask questions, find out what the newest, and then hear from all of the experts that you brought on and interviewed, and hear from, all the various different things that we do that you have brought out as the host for 2 years almost. It's been amazing. We have had more than 206,000 people view the recorded afterwards. And they're still doing that in more than 10 countries represented in those afterwards viewing. So it's been amazing. We have people joining us from, regularly from Germany and Ireland and Australia and the UK and all over. So it's really been amazing to us. And I think as you've grown as a host, which, like you say, at first it was difficult. We had a difficult platform, but it's been so professional now and so wonderful. And we could not have done this at all without you. You are the key person. So thank you so much. It has allowed us to connect with everyone in a much different way, like you said, even about what Anna's doing on social media. And a lot of that have been offline, where people connect with us watching the webinars or talking one-on-one, getting support, finding a physician in their area that they can visit. So it's really, really been beneficial to everyone. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for doing this and taking so much time and so much effort, as we know, where you've been all over, that you've joined us still and not missed any. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And now we have a special video, just really short, that Anna's put together with some highlights. So while Aaron's queuing that up, I also would like to thank all of the audience today and everyone that's been a part of this. Thank you for joining us. And we hope that you'll keep joining us as we do the next 100. And Aaron's going to put a link up. We would love to have your help for us to make the next 100 with a donation if you can. But we just really thank everyone. So Aaron, cue the video.
Thanks, Alice.
That is
Wow.
amazing.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. I got to get myself put together because the SADS families, we love you, and it's an honor. It's it's a blessed privilege that we have to care for you and to try to guide you during these times when things feel awfully scary and anxiety provoking, and to hopefully be a sense of calm and confidence and perfect love casts out all fear, and to have tried to do that. And so for those of you in those thank you words, they're just precious. And I see Lene online, who is a dear, dear person. I love her and her family, and can't believe your daughter Ellie is in college. Oh my goodness. And we hope that we'll be going strong for another 100 episodes. It probably now will take 4 years, the way we're doing the every other cycle now, every other week. But that calculates to around this time in 2026, we should have hit our 200th episode. Lord willing, and assuming Alice keeps me on her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now we have one more special thing before I'm done and you answer the questions, the real thing. So we have one more thing from the bottom of our hearts, from all of us at the SADS Foundation and the board and all the volunteers.
Oh my goodness. Golly. Thank you. And I'm supposed to open it?
Yes.
I thought I heard your voice next door.
Carla, yay.
Oh my goodness. Look at this.
Own special Emmy award, right? Like
Yeah.
you won the Emmys for the SADS Foundation.
Well, thank you. I love it. It means a lot. So thank you, everyone. Alice, we've been doing a lot together for
A long time.
years together, and
yeah, great partnership.
I hope and I trust our very best is still to come. We still have a lot of work to do for these families, and they deserve it. And
Yes,
I care for you deeply, Alice, and your team.
absolutely.
And now I got to try to do these questions. So,
Yes.
boy, I am internally a mess, everybody. So, thank you. So we'll do what we try to do best, at least half of the programs, and is your questions. They stimulate me. They're incredible questions. They've created new projects because we didn't have and have not had satisfying answers to some of the questions. And when we don't, we try to get answers. And we'll start. And like I do, they are spontaneous. That means some of you stump me. Over the 2.5 years, we've tried to make your questions pithy so I can glance over at them, try to process them, and give a reasonable answer. But we have 27 minutes on the clock till we hit the top of the hour. So whether you're in the afternoon in the United States, heading towards evening in Europe, or down under, shout out to my brother, Dr. Christopher Simsarian. If you're watching, I love you too. And wherever you are across the globe, and when you watch it again in whatever setting, I hope these answers are almost as good as the quality of your questions. So Julie, first, you're welcome. And Erica, I've seen you with many episodes. But first question on the list is Wendy's. And Wendy's asking, can mildly right ventricle dilatation be prevented from getting worse or even reversed? So it depends on the reason for that dilatation of the right side. And so let's assume that it's because of a genetic heart condition called arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy, or more specifically, arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, for ARVC. And if we know the genetic cause, and some of you know the name of your cause, we use medicines that we use for normal heart dilatation for non-genetic reasons. We don't know whether they work or are they useful for ARVC, but we sometimes use those. Getting worse, maybe we can slow down progression. Reversing the cardiomyopathy, once it is declared itself with the dilatation of the muscle and the muscle chamber of the right ventricle, we don't have reversal therapies yet. There is, in fact, therapies in motion, both new medications and new gene therapies, where I know for sure we'll be talking about them during the next 100 episodes. And so stay tuned on the progress and the advances that we're going to achieve together. Let's see, and thank you. And Emily's she's young. Thank you, Emily, 44, very young, with asymptomatic Brugada. And her doctor wants to put her on a sort of progestin only pill. Maybe it's with menopause transition or whatever the reason. And she's wondering, is this okay with Brugada? And it reminds me of one of our 100 programs where we talked about supplements. And that was one of the highlight programs, wasn't it, of the last 2.5 years. We learned what supplements may be Brugada dangerous. And we know that I don't think they're a supplement. But inhaled marijuana, Brugada dangerous. Cocaine, Brugada deadly. Alcohol to drunk, Brugada no. But in terms of the different sex hormones, the ones that we know are Brugada aggravating is in fact testosterone. That's why, even though you inherit, if you do have genetic mediated Brugada, you have a 50-50 chance, for example, of having the SCN5A Brugada mutation. So men can get it, women can get it, but the Brugada declaration or the Brugada expressivity is far more predominant in the men and not the women. And it looks like the reason is testosterone. So I would suspect, although we don't have formal studies showing the safety of the female sex hormones of estrogen and progesterone, that those would be and are Brugada safe. It reminds me, though, that there's a whole area of exploration of sex hormone therapy for long QT syndrome and Brugada syndrome. In fact, Dr. Elon Goldberg from the other Rochester, New York, and our program and Arthur Wilda have joined and have submitted unsuccessfully a grant to the NIH to explore sex hormones and the potential protection or aggravation for these different genetic diseases. So we have so much to learn in the intersection and interaction of sex hormones. But for you, Emily, if they think progesterone will do you well, I'm not worried about whether it could aggravate your asymptomatic, very low risk Brugada. But just remember, no marijuana, no cocaine, and don't get drunk, and you'll do great. So thanks, Emily. Jessica's asking, and I would be asking this one too, when will the AliveCore version that measures the QT come out? So what Jessica is asking about is there is a company, and I'm conflicted. I have a relationship with them. So does Mayo Clinic. With respect to the AliveCore device called the CardioMobile device. I don't have one with me here. We talked about this where that CardioMobile 6L can, with your thumbs or your fingers, can measure your ECG, a 2-lead. Now the 6L gives us 6 leads, almost like a full 12-lead electrocardiogram, done at home, done Bluetooth to your phone, and it is FDA cleared as an atrial fibrillation detector, and also for detecting fast heart rate, slow heart rate, sinus bradycardia. And over the last 5+ years, Mayo Clinic has partnered with AliveCore to create and advance the ability to do QT knowledge. And we've created, through artificial intelligence, deep neural networks, a QT solution where the QTC measurement by the AliveCore device is as good, almost better, well, not better than some of us measuring it ourselves, but better than the community of cardiologists who would be staring at a 12-lead ECG. That culminated in official FDA clearance. They don't do approval of devices, they do clearance. That doesn't matter. FDA clearance in April, 5 months ago. So we've been waiting for them to turn on the switch. And so the founder of AliveCore, if he's listening, Dr. Albert, one of a dear colleagues and friends, we are trying to get it turned on. It is ready to go. They're just figuring out and working through sort of the roadmap of its implementation and release. So be patient. I'm trying to be patient because I personally think it should be turned on every device that they have because there's all kinds of reasons that we would want to know the QT interval and not just our families with long QT syndrome. So hang in there. If it doesn't get released soon, maybe we'll do a grassroots effort where you all reach out and ask politely AliveCore to turn it on. So they're working hard on it. So it'll be soon. If soon will be calendar year 2022, I would be really thrilled. We're working on that. So thanks, Jessica. No, Emily, menopause doesn't make Brugada more dangerous. I think you are low risk. You should remain low risk. Just remember, no cocaine. So, oh, thanks, Mary. Oh, wonderful family, and from Melissa as well. Jessica then also is asking, is there danger in getting hormone therapy for balancing hormones with long QT? The short answer is officially we really don't know, but in general, for most long QT females, the highest risk window of time is from the onset of menstrual cycles to the offset. So from entrance into and through puberty to menopause. It at one time had thought that menopause is where the risk disappears, but it doesn't. You don't go down to essentially no risk or low risk. Your risk is certainly way lower outside of the boundaries of, say, age 13 to 33. That is going to be the peak 20 years of risk for most females with most versions of long QT syndrome. But we're actively exploring what happens in and through menopause, in which group does the risk go super low, in which group does it sort of persist. My own bias and from my experience over the last 20 years is I've actually never seen a single postmenopausal woman where I thought that her hormone replacement therapies, whatever was configured by your physician, internist, OB-GYN specialist, was QT aggravating. Never. So I think it's going to be safe in all situations, but it is an area, as I mentioned, of active pursuit. Julie's wondering, how do people keep from being afraid with long QT? Well, I think the way we keep from being afraid is one of those right over there, faith over fear. One of my wonderful families sent that shirt to me. It has not been replaced on my wall. It will stay there. I love it. And, I mentioned earlier about perfect love casts out all fear. I think the way our long QT families have become less and less afraid is knowledge. Knowledge is power. And I don't fear this disease. There are certain long QT substrates that are really difficult, no doubt. I respect these genetic heart conditions profoundly. But in almost every situation, when we make the diagnosis correctly, we risk stratify you carefully, we implement a patient-specific tailored treatment program to your risk and your needs, danger is almost zero. We win almost all of the time. In that sense of accomplishment, it's hard to become afraid. It's hard to be afraid when we do well so often. Now, of course, there's tragic mistakes. There's tragic examples. of patients and families being cared for poorly out there, where the substrate was not assessed well, not respected properly. And so, no doubt, we have plenty of work to do. It'll keep us busy from episodes 101 to 200. But fear, not much room for that in my book. And we try as a program and as a foundation to be a source where you fear less and you are less fearful and you are far more confident and courageous with respect to your condition. I love the question, Julie, and it's been a privilege to care for you. Anna is sharing from Virginia. What is the possibility for my kids with KCNH2? So that's the gene that causes type 2 long QT syndrome, who are on Nadolol. That's the beta blocker I like a lot, to have an event. They're 13-year-old twins. Oh, awesome. Who've been asymptomatic, but you, Virginia, had your own sudden cardiac arrest last year, so you're concerned. It makes good sense to be concerned. As moms and dads, we're always concerned. My 19-year-old daughter's driving with friends to Chicago today, so I'm concerned about the drive. Going to some concert, I'm concerned about the concert. I gave her the talk last night about being very careful in those settings. Another topic, but human trafficking is awful, and we've got to end this thing. Somebody at that concert tonight could well get kidnapped and trafficked. So I made it sure with no uncertain terms that it will not be, no way, no how, my daughter or her friends. So anyway, I digress, but I get what you're saying, Virginia, about your concern. The great news about your twins is, and I don't know if they're males or females, doesn't really matter because they're diagnosed. And if they've been diagnosed and they take their Nadolol as prescribed and without missing, okay, 1 dose a month, no problem. 5 doses a month, problem. So if they're doing it right, doing their part, and their QTC at rest is not concerning, under 500, under 480, they're going to do great. Because the great news is your own sudden cardiac arrest that occurred this past year, and I'm delighted you're a survivor, has no predictive value for what the storyline will be in your twins. That's good news, because there are certain genetic heart conditions where that cardiac arrest would tell me about the weather forecast for the other owners of the mutation. The disease where that's particularly true is a disease called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM. And we partner when we encounter HCM families to get them to the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Association, the HCMA, to take care of those needs. But for long QT syndrome, Brugada syndrome, CPVT, that family story doesn't hold up, meaning your cardiac arrest does not tell us that your twins are at greater risk. They will follow their journey, and so they're going to be in great shape. And Mary's asking if it's okay for long QT2 to take fish oil. Now, fish oil is very interesting. I love the question, Mary, and it doesn't matter whether you're LQT2, LQT1, Brugada, CPVT. Fish oil or omega-3 supplement as a supplement, which you remember from the supplement session, it's kind of come in and out. It was sort of viewed not too long ago as, if you're going to take a heart healthy supplement, what would be the best heart healthy supplement? Answer, omega-3. In 2022, I don't know that we can say that. So I used to be pretty pro fish oil omega-3 supplement, because there was some very intriguing animal data coming from rabbits with long QT syndrome, especially those Wasco rabbits with type 2 long QT syndrome, Mary's family's version, where if you put fish oil in the chow of those LQT2 rabbits, their rhythm was in much better control, much harder to trick it or to scare the rabbits into the danger rhythm. So if it was good for the rabbits, it's got to be good for us, right? So I'm sort of now moved towards omega-3 neutral, if you will. I don't think there's much downside of it. Is it worth it? Is it worth dealing with the so-called fish burp? And by the way, if you love your fish oil but you have the burp, just put your fish oil tablets in the freezer, swallow them frozen, and then your fish burp will go away. So that was bonus for our 100th episode. So I'm okay if you take it. If you want to just get your omega-3 from salmon and other sources, that's just fine. Melissa's question, and I see we have 9 minutes flying by on our counter with at least 3 questions in the queue. So I will try to do my part and be as pithy with my answers as you have been with your questions. Melissa, what would cause you to say no to an anxiety med or to a stimulant or both for a girl with long QT? Do I look at the length? Is there another measure to help make the decision? That's a wonderful question. And I could devote a whole program to this issue because honestly, I think an area of need for tremendous improvement is taking care of the other health issues of our long QT families, our CPVT families, and so forth, meaning the whole body, holistic health, head to toe health, mind, body, soul health. For far too long, we have let long QT individuals who are suffering from anxiety, depression, ADHD, telling them just figure it out because I'm not going to treat your ADHD with a stimulant because that will trigger your long QT. I'm not going to treat your depression, anxiety with an SSRI, Prozac, Zoloft, Celexa, doesn't matter the name because it could bother your long QT. That's really nonsense. All of those medicines are on the website www.crediblemeds.org, a hugely helpful website. Some of you have the app on your phone so that you can say, do the QT safety check, which we tell you to do, that don't let anybody prescribe you a medication that's on that hit list without a good reason and without checking it with your healthcare provider who cares and oversees your long QT or your CPVT. Having said that, we and others have published several papers now, ADHD stimulant therapy in a well-treated long QT patient, a well-treated CPVT patient. The risk is tiny. So if you turned into a DF student because of your ADHD, let's get you back to a B's and A's by effectively treating your ADHD and not having you be worrying or fearful that now is going to trigger your disease. It won't. The risk is super low. Anxiety, depression, leaving you suboptimally treated. Now, there's all kinds of ways to address anxiety and depression that doesn't require pills. And we should be doing those cognitive therapies. We should be doing counseling, trying to figure out the source of anxiety and depression and dealing with those reasons. But when and if your expert provider with your anxiety depression says you could benefit from pharmacotherapy with anxiety medications and so forth, we can safely use them, even though they're on the list. And so it's really a team effort. It's weighing in the balance. How are you doing? And if you're not doing well and they've come to the conclusion that you would benefit from a medication, we figure out how to use that safely and tailor it. And we almost always are able to do so. And so I love that question, Melissa. I think we will need to devote a program to mental health with families with these genetic heart diseases, and not just the mental health and well-being of the affected individual, but the mental health and well-being of the parents, the siblings. I think we have plenty of room, and I think that for improvement certainly feels like the subject matter of one of the episodes between 101 and 200. Maureen is asking her daughter with KCNE1, so that's a minor long QT syndrome gene where which true mutations cause what we call LQT5. And it is uncommon. About 1% of all of my families are LQT5. And that she also has a new mutation in KCNH2, which is LQT2, which is the first or second most common cause of long QT. It's close to being tied for first with LQT1. About 25 to 35% of all families have LQT2. And she's wondering how rare or common is it for a person to have an inherited variant and a de novo one? Great question. First, de novo long QT in any of the genes, and by that I mean mom's negative, dad's negative, the mutation, the genetic variant started in you, the individual, and was not actually inherited. So de novo is uncommon, probably on the order of 5%, 3 to 5% of all of our proband or index case long QT individuals are de novo. Maybe higher in CPVT1 with de novo RYR2 gene mutations. There's certain very aggressive forms of long QT syndrome of the Calmodulin version and like the Timothy syndrome version where there's a higher rate of de novo or new. So, but for LQT2 gene, that's probably 3, 4, 5% chance. And so if you started with an LQT5 that you inherited, you would have about a 1 in 6,000 background chance of also having LQT2. And of that, 5% chance that it was de novo. So it's starting to get pretty rare. And that means you're very, very special. Now, the other possibility is that for your family, the real problem and the culprit is the de novo LQT2 mutation. And the LQT5 thingy is a really weak, minimal contributing thingy. And so I'd be looking into that because I suspect the person with the new in you LQT2 de novo is the one where almost all of the attention needs to be focused. And final question of our 100th episode is Jessica's. And Jessica's asking, how do we manage, let's see, how do we manage if we get a fever when getting the new booster, having long QT? I'm terrified of getting any vaccines and mostly of getting fever. I always get intense side effects to vaccines. I love your question, Jessica. It's so important. We could unpack a lot about vaccines. We are coming, at least in North America, into flu season, and the influenza vaccine is out. Get your influenza vaccine if you're in that age demographic or recommended group to get it. The influenza vaccine causing or aggravating long QT, CPVT, Brugada, ARVC, RESP, ECT is 0, low risk. Get your flu shot. Now, whether it's the flu shot or the COVID-19 booster or any vaccine or any illness that could be fever generating, it makes good sense to lower fever. Which group is it the best sense to lower fever? Brugada syndrome. We tell people about lowering fever for long QT, but the fever long QT agitation risk is actually really low. It is measurably higher in Brugada syndrome. And so that group, I think fever counseling and fever reduction is far more important. Do I have my long QT patients lower their fever if they get fever from a virus, an illness, a vaccine? Yeah, I do, with whatever is their favorite fever lowering medication. But terrified of the fever? No, not at all. So I think you can lower it. You should lower your fever. You should not be worried if you have fever. But we probably are due either during the balance of this year or early next year as to where are we in COVID-19 now? How current should our long QT genetic heart condition families stay in terms of vaccine up to date? What if you've already been infected? Lots of questions out there, a whole program worth of questions as to, have we moved from a one size fits all universal recommendation, thou must be vaccinated, to tailoring like we do in so much of medicine to what your situation is, what your story has been, what your risks are. And I think we're due for a COVID-19 update. And I see that there is one more, but we are going to have to put that one more question that just came in to SADS Live 101. And that SADS Live 101, I believe, is in 2 weeks on September 30th. So I hope you will join us as we start the new 100 series, or the next 100 series. For those of you who have been an integral part of episode 1 through 100 and any or all of them, thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. They are so crucial. They tell us how much work we have to do, what unanswered questions are out there. And it's been a privilege. For those thank you notes along the way and the comments. And, oh, look at that. I won't give a speech, but thank you. Thank you. And I leave you with one final picture. She is 16 days old today. That's when I saw her at day 11. That's Juniper. Like I've said before, her name is growing on us. Well, to all of you, thanks for being such an important part, the part of SADS Live. And wherever you are, blessings to each and every one of you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you for SADS Live 101. Thanks, everyone.